There has been a lot of news about AI over the last couple of years since ChatGPT really hit a live moment, and a lot of the commentary right now around the AI industry has been about an AI bubble. I am going to tell you why I don't think that is the case, why AI is not going to go the way of .com, and why it is likely that we are nearing, instead of a .com burst, a new industrial revolution, the type of which has not been seen for over 100 years, even bigger than the online revolution that we have already seen at the tail end of the 90s, beginning of the aughts. So the way that I like to do this type of video is I'll come to you with a source, then I will come to you with numbers and thoughts/analysis, and that is exactly what we will be doing today. In an article titled, "Stocks May Be in an AI Bubble, Is It Time to Hoard Cash?" from USA Today by Daniel DeVise, we get the following. Stocks are breaking records. Are they overpriced? Stock indexes have been breaking records in 2025. That's not unusual. The stock market tends to rise. What is atypical, economists say, is the historically high ratio of stock prices to corporate earnings. Price-to-earnings ratios tell you if a stock is overvalued or undervalued. A common yardstick, the cyclically adjusted price-to-earnings ratio, or CAPE ratio, stands at 39.65 for the S&P 500. The last time, indeed the only time, it ranged that high before was at the peak of the dot-com bubble in 1999 to 2000. The CAPE ratio also spiked in 1929, just before the Great Depression. Are we in a stock market bubble? Are we in another bubble? Will the market crash? The answer to those questions depends on whom you ask. In a recent speech, Fed Chair Jerome Powell warned that stock prices are fairly highly valued. To many listeners, Powell was saying stocks are overpriced. A big question that comes from this type of statement: which stocks? All stocks? What are we talking about here? And why? Are there reasons that a PE ratio could get blown out of proportion temporarily? We will come back to this later, but the answer is yes. Every day or two, another op-ed piece or financial headline reminds us we may be living in another bubble. Buoyed by unrealistic hopes about the profitability of AI, other pundits disagree, arguing that companies are still turning profits and the market is fundamentally sound. This is a big deal. During the bubble from 99 to 2000, there was a lot of speculation based on zero income. Could gardening.com turn into the way that you buy seeds, right? Things like that. Could babies.com or diapers.com be the way that you end up buying diapers, despite the fact that not only was there not a real business plan behind these businesses, there was no delivery apparatus that existed that could have made those dreams reality. AI and tech giants have driven the massive stock gains of the past decade. Collectively, the Magnificent Seven earned 698% between 2015 and 2024, according to the Motley Fool. The S&P 500 as a whole returned a comparatively modest 178% in those years. If we're in a bubble, analysts say, those stocks helped inflate it. In fact, they would be the only stocks that did inflate it. The Magnificent Seven. Really, it's the Magnificent Six now. They kicked Tesla out, despite the fact that Tesla is now coming roaring back and was never really absent. But the interesting thing is there was inflation that I don't think is really being factored in here. So those PE ratios are being looked at in comparison to pre-hyperinflationary times. So I think that the inflation will take a little bit to work its way through the market, as well as it took a little while to work its way through the economy, as well as the fact that it's taken immediately hit where you and I. So it went us, then the economy, then it's going to be the market. But what that means is not that this is going to crash. It means that things are just going to look more expensive because that's what everything has done. And I think that does translate to stocks. Already, many investors are turning to cash. Money market funds held a record $7.7 trillion in assets in September, the Wall Street Journal reported. Money market funds are paying higher returns than in the past. With stocks potentially overvalued, some investors are content to sit on the sidelines. We're still seeing inflation. So while you are going, if this is your strategy, you're going to have to time it very excruciatingly well. Good luck. That does not mean, however, that an everyday investor should cash out of stocks and put every dollar in cash. The perils of timing the market. Here's the theory. If you pull out of a bubble market when it's high, you can wait until the market falls and then put your money back into stocks, buying the dip, which gives you more buying power. You pull out, you sell your Microsoft stock at $515. Microsoft tanks to $415. All of a sudden, for every five shares that you owned before, you have a sixth. It sounds foolproof. Investment experts warn, however, that it's hard to get the timing right. Anytime you're trying to avoid a downturn, the risk of being wrong is pretty high, said Peter Lazaroff, a certified financial planner in St. Louis. And you have to be correct twice. As Lazaroff explains, you have to make two decisions, when to sell high and when to buy low. Those calls are harder than they sound. That's a little bit... You don't have to sell at the highest and you don't have to buy at the lowest in order to really turn a little bit of a profit, but you have to take into account the fact that you're paying taxes on the stock you earned, and depending on where you're investing, you're going to pay that investment fee as well. Sell high, the market might close at a record one day, then set another record the next day. You won't know the peak until it's passed. Buy low, in the Great Recession, the Dow lost more than half of its value between 2007 and 2009. If you had bought back in on any day in 2008, you would have missed the bottom. The problem is, we've seen over and over that actually implementing an approach like that is very difficult, said Amy Arnott, portfolio strategist at Morningstar. You end up missing out on some gains. So, what I've done here is I have taken some time and put together the 5 biggest arguments that we are in an AI bubble that you commonly find, right? There's an argument here, there's an argument there. I've kind of tried to distill all of those arguments down into 5 different points, and then I'm going to spend a little bit of time refuting them to the best of my ability. Number 1, valuations are way too high, just like this article says. It is a sign of euphoria. Basically, a summary of that, some people say that AI company prices are crazy and will crash. But really what we're seeing is that argument spread out over everything in the market. And true, even some companies like Coca-Cola are having their PE ratio stretched a little bit. It doesn't seem to be anything particularly damning, right? But just a little bit of stretch here, a little bit of stretch there, that's across the market. Then you have the Magnificent 7 stocks whose PE ratios are stretched quite a bit, but they're still growing as well. You get rewarded a high PE ratio if you are a growing company. Some people say AI company prices are crazy and will crash, but a lot of the money comes from real sales. Big tech firms are spending huge amounts on data centers and chips right now. Also, the overpricing isn't everywhere. It's mostly a few hot names, not the whole market. The poster child for this run-up is Nvidia, and their EPS keeps looking better and better when comparing the trailing 12 months to the forward-looking PE ratio. Nvidia keeps selling more products, keeps debuting new products and keeps their products more efficient as this practice goes on. That is exactly what you want from a tech company that is growing. Constant innovation. The space was without all that much innovation for too long in Nvidia. Jensen Huang, I think, has kind of looked at Tesla and said, yeah, we want to do that. So what Tesla does is that they innovate without debuting a new model. They innovate without having a new model year. They don't care if they have a better heat pump. They put it in the car right now and let that run through the system. That is the way that it seems Nvidia is sort of doing things. Constant innovation, constant tweaking, constant maneuvering. And then we get this from Seeking Alpha. Nvidia, it's not a bubble, it's a dam. From Seeking Alpha by Oliver Rodzianko. We're in a super cycle, a new AI age. However, even super cycles have periods of high demand and pauses of low demand, unless there are no bottlenecks at the price of adoption. Unless there are no bottlenecks and the price of adoption is so low that enterprise and commercial customers can buy indefinitely without a bad effect on their income statements. Very rare scenario. In reality, the U.S. has finite energy capacity and limitations to certain critical resources like rare earths needed for AI development. This is an argument about the sort of modulations in Nvidia's income that have led, I think, to the appearance of round tripping, which I think, and I'll get to this later, is really just a manifestation of the fact that fewer and fewer companies right now have the tools to play the game of AI. And as that becomes more regularized, so too will the income for Nvidia. Big tech companies have guided for about $400 billion combined in data center capex for 2025. This relies heavily on bottom-up demand of cloud services customers who are funding the AI boom. Moreover, enterprises rely on their consumers, that's you, reader, to fund their AI tools. In essence, if users reach a point of AI saturation, which would be akin to the feeling, I already have AI, I don't need more, don't expect them to shell out more and more money for AI services. That means the enterprises will request fewer AI cloud services, which means that big tech companies will request fewer GPUs from Nvidia, Advanced Micro Devices, AMD, and others. I don't see that being the threat because, like I've talked about earlier and like I'll talk about again, really one of the incredible things about this revolution is that each new generation of these things becomes more capable, more powerful, and more efficient. So you could have 1,000 hoppers, but the next generation is going to be so much better that those hoppers will just be supplementary to a single one of the new chips. In addition, the frothiness, like I talked about earlier, that this market in the PE ratio category is seeing, that frothiness is not spilling over into Coca-Cola and Kellanova and even the companies that should be tangentially or AGI or AI adjacent like Disney. Disney could stand to have lots of benefits from adopting AI into the video games and movies and Disney Plus, TV shows, all of these things. Disney is not seeing that inflation. Part of it is because Bob Iger is incompetent and should no longer be the CEO, but that frothiness of frothiness of PE ratio is not translating into businesses that are not basically directly related to AI. Could Coca-Cola crash 10%? Yeah, of course it could, right? Could Coca-Cola crash 30%? That would be strange, and that's what you're looking at if you're talking about a major crash. The second thing that you hear here is that AI has delivered no productivity. It is comparable to the dot-com hysteria. Critics say we don't see big efficiency gains yet, so AI is fake buzz. But many companies only started using AI tools recently, and it takes time to change workflows. Early studies and job surveys show real time savings already and cost cuts already in jobs like customer support, coding help, and document review. And this is before there are tried and true tactics for AI supplementation, implementation, and maybe AI exclusively in these roles. But the productivity spike is going to be more of a suffusion this way until there are AI-driven products themselves. Think robotaxis, think Optimus bots, think delivery drones, etc. Until there are actually these mechanisms, these products that use AI instead of AI being the product, a lot of this will be just sort of bit and pieced through companies along the way. We also get this from Harvard Business Review. Adoption has split. Consumers embrace ChatGPT at record speed, reaching 100 million users faster than any prior app. Enterprises remain hesitant. MIT found productivity gains elusive at scale and advised focusing on high-value uses, embedding AI in workflows and scaling gradually. But the real answer is it can help everywhere all at once right now, even yesterday. According to Stanford's AI Index, business adoption rose to 78% in 2024 from 55% the previous year. Yet companies remain tentative, citing privacy, reliability, compliance, security, and financial risk as key barriers. That short amount of time, we're only in 2025. In 2023, the adoption rate was 55%. It became 78% in 2024. I would bet we're going to see in the high 80s, low 90s by the end of 2025. Meaning there's going to be 10 to 12% of the economy that still isn't even touching artificial intelligence. But it also means that in the bulk of the economy, that 78% going to become 88 to 90% is really, really new. It also means that it is a matter of time until those tools are put into the hands of someone that can make one breakthrough in a business. And that can happen at every business. The aforementioned Coca-Cola. Imagine someone in the product development side of things running the list of ingredients through artificial intelligence, and AI notices something. Hey, these two ingredients here chemically, because that's what it is, these two ingredients here chemically are really close. We could save some time manufacturing both of those chemicals at the same time and putting them in that product. Well, that's something that would be simple that maybe has just gotten overlooked, and all of a sudden, Coca-Cola is 2% more efficient and 3% cheaper. That is a 5% better product from the seller's standpoint, and the same product from the buyer's standpoint. So while it will be 5% more efficient or cheaper or whatever, it will be the same product to you buying it off the shelf. Meaning that one little thing like that, all of a sudden compounded through Coca-Cola, through every bottle of Coca-Cola, every can of Coca-Cola, every 2-liter, every time you go to McDonald's and get a Coke with your meal, it's cheaper. Every time. That adds up quick with large companies like Coca-Cola, and we haven't seen any of it yet. The number 3 argument is that GPUs are going to bottleneck. Some argue AI can't grow because there aren't enough powerful chips. Yet chip makers and cloud companies are building more factories and servers fast. Short-term shortages happen in every new tech wave, but they usually ease as production ramps up. This is going to be a matter of forecasting the demand. It is not something that is just blanketed on the surface. It is not something that is easy to predict in particular. So you have to have a baseline from which to forecast. We get this from Goldman Sachs. How data center supply is rising around the world. Goldman Sachs research estimates that there will be around 122 gigawatts of data center capacity online by the end of 2030. It's going to be bigger than that. The mix of this capacity is expected to skew even further towards hyperscalers and wholesale operators, 70% versus 60% today. Although Asia Pacific has added the most supply over the past 10 years by a wide margin, the West is woefully behind in everything but chip design. North America has the most scheduled capacity coming online over the next 5 years. In addition to this, those Asia Pacific data centers are with the older product. The new data centers in the United States will be built with the new generation of GPUs, which are more powerful, they are more efficient, they are more resilient. Everything that you could hope for from a new chip will be upgraded on the new chips because Nvidia has pledged to iterate yearly. The number 4 argument here, electricity is going to bottleneck. That is an interesting one. That is one that even the likes of Elon Musk have talked about. But if Elon Musk has talked about it, that means he's also moved in order to curb that problem. And we will see that later. People worry data centers will suck up so much power that the systems can't handle it. But energy groups say AI will raise demand, not explode it. They're wrong, it's going to explode it. The utilities can expand capacity over time. New efficiency tricks and clean energy projects can also lower the impact per computation. In addition to this, the Trump administration has pledged to take the red tape off of power plants. Power plants are going to become easier and faster to build. In addition to this, battery storage like those offered by Tesla, and Tesla has just iterated again to make a bigger, stronger product in the battery storage area, will allow the current grid to keep producing power during non-peak hours and store that energy, which will curb the immediate need for new energy production. Basically, so all around the country, you have what are called peaker plants. And what happened was some area had built a power plant, and then it grew too big for that power plant to provide for. And they built a new one. Well, the new one is too expensive to run all the time. So there is the ducktail of power, and what happens is the power spikes, right? And here's the threshold for that old energy plant. But during the spike, energy demand gets up here, right? So it zooms past the production point. During these hours, a second power plant is fired up just for those hours. Well, now with energy storage, what can happen is the first plant that gets you to here, right, can produce at max Q all day. The peaker plant that helps you from here to here, well, they can produce at max Q all day as well. You store the energy during the hours of non-peak demand, and that energy can go towards data centers, etc. So just battery storage will go a long way towards solving this problem. The third point on this is that the Trump administration has also signaled a return to nuclear energy, to small modular plants. And this could be a game changer for the United States. The United States has moved largely away from nuclear energy. This could also be a massive game changer for Europe if they ever get to making some sensible decisions on energy. In addition to this, solar installations can come online about as fast as the panels can be unwrapped. And that goes a long way if you are setting up a very large installation. People say, oh, well, it only produces during sunshine and you can't produce very much, etc. If it is supplemental to your entire grid, who cares? Who cares? Set it up, reap the rewards. That's how this next wave of energy will go. The more you can produce, the more you can sell. It is simply that easy. The demand will be there. And I think that solar is going to be a big part of this because it is supplemented by battery storage again. And then there is this fifth argument here. All it is wrapper startups, capex, and round tripping. Skeptics say AI is just flashy demos and huge bills, with little benefit to everyday people. They also warn about round tripping, where money circles between partners. For example, a startup raises cash, spends it on a cloud provider, and that provider invests back in the startup. Right now, the big round tripping hullabaloo is around Nvidia investing in OpenAI, who is buying Nvidia chips, right? So that's the big one right now, which can make demand look even bigger than it is, as it shows up on both balance sheets. But even with some round tripping, much of today's spending is building real infrastructures, computers, networks, and trained models that other industries can use for years. A lot of this investment will be one time. I think that there will be possible reinvestment in the future, but it will be towards something better than the product that you are getting now. And like past tech booms, some projects will fail, but the lasting tools and services that work will keep delivering value beyond the hype. For these reasons, I don't think that what we're looking at is really an AI bubble. Is there perhaps frothiness in the economy? Maybe, but you also have to take into account that what we are looking at with the past few years, as it is often defined, is taking point. So the market is up 378%. These numbers, right? Take very careful observation of when those starting dates are. What I am noticing more and more is that these places are fear-mongering by starting that date from the COVID crash. So the economy was going along just fine, humming along. It was maybe a little bit too strong, and a little bit too strong for a little bit too long, right? There hadn't been a correction for a longer than average number of years. But then COVID happened and everything tanked beyond what was actually reasonable. A lot of these people citing these numbers are starting from that tank point to where we are today. When, if you had started from where the market had peaked before that crash, it looks a lot more linear and a lot less exponential. So those are just my thoughts on this type of thing. If you enjoy this type of thing, hitting a like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other people. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, things like this are what I talk about on this channel. So consider hitting the subscribe button in order to stick around for more. And as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.